On this episode of What's Going On with Shipping, we're unveiling a new series. That's right, Ship Happens. I'm your host, Sal Mercogliano. Welcome to today's episode. So, the amount of emails, texts, DMs, smoke signals I got about this ship going aground in Norway was absolutely amazing. This is the NCL Sultan, and we're going to come back to Sultan at the end here. But there's also a series of other incidents that happened or reports that came out that I want to cover in this new series we're going to start calling Ship Happens. That's right. We're going to discuss incidents involving shipping where we can be a little bit lighter. We've been very heavy here recently, talking about issues of trade and commerce and people getting hurt and actually killed. This is going to be a little bit lighter. We're going to be a little bit on the light side, talking about what I always consider some of the best and funniest stories when it comes to global shipping. If you're new to the channel, hey, take a moment, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so be alerted about new stories as they come out. All right, our first story is going to take us to North Korea and the Dear Leader, where we see the launching of the second of a new class of destroyers for the North Korean Navy. Now, North Korea, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, has been in a nonstop war with the Republic of Korea since 1950. Yes, that war is still going on. It never ends. It's one of the last vestiges of the Cold War. However, Korea has announced their plan to really expand their naval footprint. They've launched frigates and small patrol boats. They've even launched submarines, and we're talking about ballistic missile submarines. But now they're launching destroyers. But it appears as if the second destroyer's launch didn't go as planned. So this is the launch of the USS Detroit, LCS-7. This is up at Fincantieri's shipyard up in Wisconsin, and that is a side launch. Now, side launches are done for a variety of reasons. In the case of Fincantieri, they did that because they didn't have a traditional launching slip. This is easier because you don't need as long a launching slip. You don't have a dry dock to do it, and side launches are very dramatic. They're very great to attend to. Don't stand too close to the water. You're going to get wet. The problem with side launches is this, that if you don't do it right, you could damage the vessel, and that appears to what has happened to the North Korean. This is the Chohyun class multi-purpose destroyer launched by North Korea. This is the first in the class, 5,000 tons, very similar to the United States Arleigh Burke class destroyer, also to the Chinese Type 52 destroyers. You'll notice that the ship has all the kind of similar outfits. It's got a main gun up forward, 5-inch gun, 127 millimeter, VLS cells, torpedo, sea whizzes, missile launchers. It has the four-face kind of phased array radar. It's got a helicopter pad on the stern, a lot more VLS cells on it. So very similar. Satellite image shows the second ship in the class, the one that suffered the catastrophic launch, in the cradle getting ready to be launched. Now, it's really important when this launch takes place that all the skids or the bogies underneath the ship move at the same time. It has to be seamless. Everything has to move concurrently. If it doesn't happen, it can be catastrophic. Here we see the results of the launch. The bow of the vessel, the part that's in the water there, is launched first. Now, what the reports say is actually the stern started to move along with the rest of the boat, but then the stern locked in and it wouldn't move, which means that only the forward half of the vessel moved, and it had to have twisted. It had to have broken, and conceivably what happens here is you crack the hull, probably snap the keel. This is going to be an entire constructive total loss. A little bit of a blow up here from Tom Bike on Twitter. You'll see the vessel in the lower right there in the cradle, and then you see the results here of the vessel, tarps over it to cover it up. But again, part of the vessel up on the land, other part in the water. Just horrific style of launch. This is the first ship in the class. Now, there was a whole series of photos that came out of this vessel showing test launching of weapons. The previous photo had it launching from the bow. Just a lot of weaponry being shot off the vessel. I will note one interesting thing that has happened here with this vessel. We have never seen this vessel underway. There's no images of it steaming. And matter of fact, there is an overhead image looking down on the vessel where it may appear that there's no engines in this thing. which would be interesting because that's a big weight issue in the center of the vessel. If the ship is not properly weighted when it's launched, that could impact the launch. But more importantly, where's the engines in these things? Are these going to have diesels? Are these going to have turbines? Maybe they haven't arrived yet. They more than likely have to get them from someone to put into these ships. Right now, we believe they're just towing them out to do the launches. Then we have the official statement that came out from the North Koreans, and this is gold. Allow me to read a section of this. Due to immature command and carelessness in operation during the launching process, the parallel movement of the bogies could not be guaranteed, which resulted in the launching sled in the stern being released first and becoming stranded. The ship's balance being destroyed by a dent, I don't think it's going to be more than a dent, in the bottom of some sections, and a serious accident occurring in which the bow section could not be released from the stern. Comrade Kim Jong-un, this is the leader of North Korea, observed the entire process of the accident and made a stern assessment. I'll bet you he made a stern assessment. And this was a serious accident that could not have happened and could not be tolerated, and was, quote, a criminal act caused by pure carelessness, irresponsibility, and unscientific imperialism. He goes on to list a myriad of groups responsible for this. And then he says, Comrade Kim Jong-un earnestly stated that the urgent restoration of the destroyer is not a single practical issue, but a political issue directly related to the authority of the state, and therefore it must be completed unconditionally by the June plenary meeting of the Party Central Committee, and that the ardent patriotic loyalty and labor devotion of the working class of the Chojin Shipyard and Raijin Shipyard must shine as proud feats that have contributed to strengthening the national defense capability. You can argue that all you want. There ain't no way that ship is getting fixed by June. That ship is probably done with. And I have to imagine that there's going to be a bloodletting in North Korea over this. Right now, I can tell you that there are people who work for the U.S. Navy's Navy Sea Systems Command who are very happy that they work for that organization and not work for the North Korean version, because based on the track record of some of our programs at Navy Sea Systems Command, if we had Kim Jong-un ruling here in the United States, and I hear you all now making comparisons, stop that. This is not a political show. It would be bad. We've had some bad programs. Although I will say this, we've never had anything as catastrophically bad as that launch. The last launch of the LCS up in Manitowoc did have a slight incident where they hit a tugboat, but nowhere near what we just saw with the loss of this destroyer. Story number 2 takes us up on the Ohio River with a report just released by the NTSB. NTSB cites inexperienced pilot using cell phone in Ohio River tow incident. So this story deals with the contact of the Amber Brittany tow with Vane Dyke. So on March 8th, 2024, about 15:50 local time, the towing vessel Amber Brittany was transiting upbound on the Ohio River, pushing a 15-barge tow. Yes, you push tows on the river. When the tow struck the Vane Dyke at the upstream end of the McAlpin Locks and Dam in Louisville, Kentucky. Those of you who are familiar with the channel may remember that we had an incident going downbound on the Ohio where a tug lost its barges, hit that dike, and some of the barges got loose and headed over the McAlpin Lock and Dam. This is the opposite. This is a ship that was coming up. Goes on, there were no injuries and no pollution reported. Total damages to the barges, cargo, and dam gates were estimated at $1.3 million. We determined that the probable cause of the contact of the Amber Brittany tow with the Vane Dyke was the pilot not effectively compensating for the outdraft current while navigating out of the locked channel entrance, likely due to the pilot's inexperience in transiting the Portland Channel on the Amber Brittany and the distraction due, wait for it, cell phone use. All right, so this is becoming a more common issue that we're seeing not just in shipping, but I've been volunteer firefighter for 20-something years, and I have to tell you the number of accidents I go to because people are texting and on their phones is amazing, and we're seeing it now in shipping a lot where we're having these similar incidences. So here's an incident where basically you got a young pilot. I should mention that on the inland rivers, you have the captain, and then kind of the mate is what's referred to as the pilot. It's not a pilot as bringing in a ship and docking it. But in this case, the pilot was basically distracted. We're going to have another distracted story here in a minute. But here's one that gives you an idea of some of the issues we're seeing faced on the rivers. And I have the link for all these NTSB reports and reports available so you can download them and read them. So our third story takes us out into the middle of the Atlantic. Salvage tow begins for Maersk ship after 3 weeks adrift in the Atlantic. 3 weeks. All right, Maersk. What? Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. Why did it take you 3 weeks to get a towboat out to tow the Maersk Sana back to port? I covered this story originally. We talked about this. Now, I should mention that we're making light of jokes here a bit in this. There was an incident with this ship. 2 of the crew members were severely injured. They were medevaced, heloed out to Bermuda. A 3rd crew member was injured but remained on board. And we covered that story at the time. However, this story is a little bit different because this deals with the after effect. Maersk Sana has been adrift for 3 weeks in the middle of the Atlantic. That's right, because they were waiting for a towboat to come. Where's the towboat coming from? I will show you. Go to our buddies at Marine Traffic. So here is Maersk Sana. She had left New York on April 26th, and then on April 28th, she suffers her casualty right here. She is out in the middle of the Atlantic, and she suffers a main engine, probably a crankcase or a piston explosion on board. The ship was sailing from New York for Singapore. Ship is adrift. They medevac off the 2 crew members, and then she sits waiting for a towboat. Now, initially, we had a report that the towboat was coming from Mexico. That was canceled. Instead, you'll see here is it C1 Ruby coming from Norway. That's right, Norway. This is April 28th. The towboat doesn't leave until May 4th. This is a week after the initial accident happened on April 28th. The vessel will leave Norway heading to Maersk Sana that is slowly drifting back to the United States. I mean, it's in the current now. So it is adrift heading toward the United States. And if you've never been on a big ship adrift out in the middle of the Atlantic, I've had that experience. My first cadet cruise on board the training ship Empire State 5, we broke down and drifted, what we affectionately referred to as summer sea drift, for a week, and it's miserable. It is miserable to be on board. Now, the ship had power because you have auxiliary diesels and ship service diesel generators. It was the main engine that was out, but nevertheless, the ship was adrift for a week. The C1 Ruby set sail on May 4th, had to stop in the Azores on May 9th for fuel because it is sailing across the friggin' Atlantic to come get this ship. Begins towing Maersk Sana on May 15th, and the ship arrives in Freeport in Bahamas on 22 May. The ship's pierside in Freeport offloading its cargo, probably getting ready to go into the shipyard right across the way here, where they'll undergo repairs for the engines. Like I say, Maersk, come on, 3 weeks? You could have gotten a towboat closer than freaking Norway, and waiting a week to get it? I mean, there are towboats that are around that could have grabbed the vessel and initiated the tow. At least have somebody out there with them so that if something bad happens, they're not sitting there adrift on a slow boat heading toward the North Carolina coast. I mean, come on. Story 4 takes us to the Mississippi River with another story from the NTSB. And this one, you're going to love this one. NTSB, Mississippi towboat grounded while pilot took a bathroom break. Yes, that's right. We're having a grounding here because of... You'll find out. So here's the story. While the towing vessel City of Louisville was upbound on the Mississippi River pushing 11 barges on July 29, 2023, it ran aground on a charted shoal and rocky area. The grounding caused fractures to the vessel bottom plating underneath the engine room, leading to water flooding into the engine room machinery and aft accommodation spaces. An estimated 30 gallons of gear oil was released into the river. No injuries were reported. Damage to the vessel was estimated at $2 million. The pilot, again, pilot is the mate, was alone on watch in the wheelhouse when the grounding occurred. The pilot told investigators that he had left the helm and went to the port side of the wheelhouse. He estimated he was gone maybe 5 minutes. Quote, leaving the helm unattended is contrary to prudent navigation practices when operating on rivers, the report said. Continuation, the Mississippi River in particular has frequent turns and the potential for strong currents and heavy traffic. Due to these factors, inattention to a vessel's path, even for a brief period, can result in encountering other vessels and hazards such as shallow areas or fractures on the banks nearby. All right. Why did he leave the helm for 5 minutes? If you ever wonder why I do this YouTube channel, this is one of the reasons right here. This story and the next one is really that story. So going into the NTSB report, we get a very detailed track analysis of the vessel with a breakdown of where the vessel is. Right here, you'll see at 1442, the pilot leaves the helm. At 1444, the sailing line course changes, but it's not made because he's not there. 1447, the pilot returns to the helm. And then 1449, the vessel grounds. The vessel basically missed a slight turn in the river to keep it on track, and the tow runs aground. The reason for it is absolutely stellar. Allow me to read the comment by Reliant Marine Solutions that's included in the NTSB report. Loss of situational awareness. Pilot stated he stepped away from the pilot house console to urinate in a plastic bag. Okay, that's very unique, very descriptive. A plastic bag, not a bucket, not over the side, but in a plastic bag. When he returned to the pilot house console, he realized the tow was out of the channel. He turned the steering rudders to starboard in an effort to steer back into the channel, but the boat ran aground very soon after, resulting in the hull becoming holed and the engine room taking on water. But my favorite part in the report is this. The pilot told investigators that he threw the bag overboard, out the port door of the wheelhouse. He estimated he returned to the helm at 1447. All right, hang on a second. You're the pilot on a towboat. You're coming up to a course change. You need to urinate. Your decision to do is to go out to the side of the ship, out to the side of the wheelhouse, pee in a bag, then take the pee in the bag, seal it, I assume, throw it overboard. By the way, you're not allowed to throw any plastics overboard, so that's pollution. Throws it overboard, and by the time he comes back, he's grounded. All right, this is 2 in the afternoon. It's 2:47. There's nobody else awake that can come to the bridge for a minute to watch the helm while you're peeing. You couldn't pee while looking forward out the window. I mean, why'd you have to go pee off to the side? Who are you hiding from on the bridge that you have a little bit of modesty? I don't want to pee in front of the helm. I better go over here. I shouldn't make light of this because I've had these situations where I'm on the bridge and I gotta go to the bathroom, but you usually call someone to take the helm for you, or you're out in the middle of the ocean and it doesn't really matter. When you're in a tight maneuvering situation with a course change coming up, can you hold it for just a second? Or again, just pee while you're making the course change while you're doing it? I don't know. It's just one of those stories that strikes me as very funny. And then we have the pièce de résistance of this episode. Let's go to Norway.
Tenker du om det du ser her?
Ja, altså han hadde flaks som gikk på land akkurat der. 5 meter lengre syd, og han hadde kommet inn i soverommet. Og det hadde jo ikke vært spesielt hyggelig.
Hva vet du om hva som skjedde?
Nei, det hadde gått på autopilot fra andre siden av fjorden. Altså ikke tatt til høyre for å kjøre inn til Orkanger, men bare kjørt rett frem mot Byneslandet. Så der har nok noen vært veldig lite oppmerksom ombord.
Hva hørte du, eller?
Hørte ingenting. Lå altså og sov 7 meter fra baugen, og det her har det vært et ettertrykkelig bråk. Men det har vel vært en langsom buldring og ikke et smell. Den står jo også på land ganske ettertrykkelig, og den gikk på land på full flo. Så den er jo ikke i nærheten av å bli løftet av. Det kommer ikke noe mer flo. Så her blir den stående, så jeg er veldig spent på å se hvordan de skal få dette skipet av. Uopprettelig skade har ikke skjedd, så man får kose seg med det absurde i situasjonen. Det er ikke ofte du ser et skip stå sånn i fjæra hvor du har badet hele livet.
So the stupidest, most idiotic, unrealistic image ever in a movie about a ship has got to be this one here from Speed 2. It's just off the walls nuts. I mean, everyone I've ever known who sailed sat there and said that this is the worst scene ever. Then you have this right here, and you gotta sit there and go, oh, maybe it's not that. Maybe Speed 2 is being accurate. I don't know, because that's crazy. I just love the fact that guy is so calm that, hey, 7 meters the other way, he's in my bedroom. I mean, it's a Norwegian. Norwegians are like that. They're just not going to get that excited. Let's go ahead and go to marine traffic. So here's the track of the NCL Salton. Very short distance. She was sailing out of Averøy. I'm not going to be able to say that right, but was heading up toward the region of Orkanger near Trondheim. You'll see the vessel came down the fjord here. You'll see the ship coming in here, speed of nearly 16 knots, never deviates from its course, and just boom, right into the shore. I mean, it just didn't change. So questions are going to be, was this ship on some sort of autopilot? Was the course programmed in? Did the officers on the ship just miss the turn because they were supposed to head down here, down the fjord, head toward here, toward the port down here? Instead, just smack dab right into the shore at 16 knots. And you can kind of see that from the imagery. Story from Marine Traffic says that after one attempt to refloat the 439-foot container ship, Norwegian authorities reported the vessel operator had retained a tug to aid with the effort. They're conducting a ground survey, which delayed a planned attempt to refloat the ship at high tide Thursday night. NCL Stolten remains grounded in Bisent, Norway, west of Trondheim. The police told the news outlet VG that they had conducted a breath test for the crew members on the bridge, and there was no suspicion of intoxication. The police had collected the vessel's documents and log, but said a more detailed investigation would wait till the ship is refloated. Reports indicate that the weather was good at the time of the year. 0500 is already daylight in Norway. It's summertime. It's daylight always in Norway, especially around Trondheim. The Norwegian coastal authorities monitoring the situation reports the oil spill response vessel, I'm not even going to try my Norwegian here, is standing by. This is a serious incident, and we are grateful that nobody was injured in the grounding. Yes, we're very thankful that the bow of the ship did not go into this dude's bedroom. Built in 2002, the vessel is registered in Cyprus and operates a Norwegian coastal route with connections to Bremerhaven and Rotterdam, 886 TEU, 20-foot equivalent units, crew of 16 consisting of Norwegians, Russians, and Ukrainians. That's probably a fun-loving crew right there. VG is reporting the ship had been involved in 4 incidents in less than 3 years. The newspaper is saying that the ship ran aground in Tamarvika in October 2023, but was able to free itself. In April of 2024, it made contact with a pier while maneuvering in Ulsund and had a 6-meter gash in the hull. And in January 2023, the ship was stranded at sea for 5 hours while the crew replaced a fuel pipe. So again, when we look at issues involved with shipping, I mean, you got to laugh at some of this stuff. It is a bit comical. So we had 5 ships happening out there around the world. We had a North Korean destroyer hung up during a launch. We had a pilot distracted on the Ohio River near Louisville. We saw Maersk obviously waiting forever to get a towboat to go save a stranded container ship. We have a pilot on a towboat in the Mississippi who had to take a pee break and then wind up grounding. And then we have a container ship that almost speed-tooed its way into the bedroom of some Norwegian dude. I'm happy about today's episode. I don't know about you, but I enjoy episodes like this. And I hope you did too. And if you did, hey, take a moment, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you'll be alerted about more ridiculous nonsense when it comes to shipping when it happens. Give it a thumbs up, share it across social media. You gotta share this one across social media. And if you can, support the page. How do you support the page? Well, you can hit that super thanks button down below or head on over to Patreon and become a monthly or yearly subscriber. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. We'll get back to more serious reporting here shortly, but every now and then, ship happens. Till next time, this is Sal signing off.